Welcome back. The second part in our video series on making a permanent N-scale layout has been a long time in the coming, and the reason for that is that, well, as we discussed last time, I decided to use a Lundia shelf as the base table for it, which is a fine choice for many reasons, including the fact that the shelves are made in Finland out of locally produced Finnish wood. So they're very ethical, but like so many other things that are ethical, they're also very expensive, especially when you want to buy them new, or if you want to buy them new. And the reason why I'm here, I'm actually in a fairly central part of Helsinki, but since, you know, a special part about our fine capital is the fact that it tends to be more than slightly wooded at times. Yeah, I've been hunting for second-hand Lundia shelves, which are readily available for fairly cheap prices if you're willing, or if you want to use your sort of 30 centimeters deep regular bookshelf shelf. But I'm of course wanting a 60 centimeter deep shelf. It's a slightly irregular size. Turns out that getting those second-hand is not easy, and I'm actually on the way to buy one shelf, only one, from you know, your regular person second-hand. I hope I'm on the right path to actually make it to their house. And this is probably then going to be the last thing that I actually managed to find second hand, and the rest will need to be bought actually new from Lundia. But, well, c'est la vie. Hopefully there it is. So that was a success. I'm hanging out here with my new PAL shelf. Of course, just one shelf doesn't make a full table, but it helps tremendously. I already have some corner shelves, so the next order of business is to visit the local model shop. They have some Fleischmann Profi tracks on N-scale used, so I will get hopefully a lot of what I need from there, and then next we'll start hunting for more of those. But no, progress has been made. So it's been several weeks since I shot the last segment. I did go to the model shop then, and they did have some tracks that we can use, not all of them, but the section I shot walking out of there had so much wind that I couldn't really use it. Probably going to be the same now. I should get a better microphone for this, but what they also had was some Lundia shelves, or rather what the owner had extra. So I'm going to the model shop now to pick up the extra shelves because he had them at home, so we can start building the final shelves on which the track will be built. So progress is being made. Welcome back. We have all the necessary pieces to make the basic shelf, so the next order of business will be to actually clean up the stuff that we have here and assemble the shelf.
So that's what we're going to do now. So here we have everything that we need, and the next order of business is to build stuff. In an ideal world, you would have 2 people for your Lundia building needs, because this can be a bit complex. But because I'm doing this alone, I'm also going to show you some of the tricks on how to actually get it done by yourself. Since the sound quality here was a bit rubbish, I'm going to narrate this. So the first thing you need to do is to set up one end of your shelf, so one of the ladders as they're called in Finnish, against a fairly flat surface. Here I'm using the door frame. Next you take one of the other ladder and one of the shelves, and then you simply place the shelf, as you would in the final product, between the 2 ladders, because the interlocking manner in which they are attached actually makes it fairly steady. And then next you simply insert another shelf above the last one, and you get a more or less steady version of the shelf. Here I'm having some difficulty because the shelves I got from Mallikauppa are not your standard Lundia shelves, and they are quite a lot heavier than your normal version. But there we go. And thus what you get is an already standing up shelf like so. And for the next order of business we need a spirit level, or whatever this thing is actually called in English. And you will use it like so to make sure that your shelves are level. And the next order of business is attaching the crisscrossy thing that actually makes sure that your shelf stands upright. Lundia, of course, have their official screws that you should be using for this, but I didn't have any extras of those, so we're just going to use whatever I happen to have in the cupboard that was of the right size. Let's not put that in too tight, because if it is too tight, then you will have trouble aligning the support correctly. Once you have it correctly aligned, you will simply screw in the support, and after that your shelf will be standing upright perfectly. And there we are. Now, thanks to the crisscrossy thing over here, this will actually hold quite steady. And now the important bit is to remember that this is the wrong way around, so we perform a rotation like so. Thank you for your service, spirit level. Now then, the next order of business will be to put the end shelf in on the other end. And this is the bit that I particularly like about the Lundia shelf system, because once you have put one of those little crisscrossy things in place, assembling the rest assembling the rest is simply a matter of attaching the shelves
to the correct spot without the need to put in any more supports. Okay. Except that this will need some. Okay, so it turns out our end bit has this part is for some reason off by one hole, so rather than using that as a support like I usually would, we need to put in these little metal things that you use to support shelves in the system, and that goes there, and this goes here, and ta-da! And next we need to find out how exactly do Lundia's little things that keep this from tipping over if there's too much weight on this end actually work. I've never used those before. A little googling later. How you install the flip iron is as follows. You slide it through from here, like so, and then you attach it with the same pins that you use to attach the shelves, like so. Oh.
I'll be the first one to admit that a shelf assembled from second-hand cast-offs is not pretty, but it will get the job done.
So here we are, shelf built, and for our next section we will be doing a small test layout on the track to see if my idea from the previous video in this series can actually be made work.
As you will maybe remember from the previous video, I made the plan for the eventual layout using a little plastic scale model thing, Sapluna in Finnish, which of course doesn't give you an exact result, and we had a fairly tight fit when it came to putting in the two straight tracks and then the curve radius R2 tracks branching off from the regular point, because there is no, at least in Fleischmann Profit Track, there is no kind of standard parts for this. I will need to buy shorter R2 curve radius curves so that this can be made fit. But what we're testing here is whether or not the whole contraption will be too wide for the table. And as you can see, it is not. It fits perfectly. But of course, before we declare victory, we also have to check whether or not train carriages can actually negotiate the curve without hitting the ladder's inner side. So that is what we are testing here, using a new Swedish passenger car that I recently acquired. And as you can see, it can negotiate the curve perfectly. So there we are. The shelf has been built and the track has been test laid. Well, not the entire track, but the potentially problematic part of the track has been test laid, and it turns out it works. I actually had quite heavy doubts about whether or not that would be the case. But here we are. We can then proceed to the next phases in building this thing. Of course, hey Urho, onpa kiva kun tulit. Of course, the thing is that it's not, the shelf is not entirely complete. We still lack doors. Witness the tail of the cat. We still lack doors for the shelf because for cat reasons, I would like it to be of the kind that the cats can't get in and smash everything up, as they otherwise probably would. And we also need to get some kind of stuff for the back of the thing and to the other side to make them also both cat-proof and dust-proof on both sides, because otherwise, knowing that there are 3 humans and 3 cats living in this apartment, dust would get everywhere and the layout would just look awful because of that. But then in addition to that, the next phases will of course be to get the track pieces that we need to finish the planned layout. As already discussed in the previous segment, I just don't have all the track pieces that we need for that. And then of course with the tracks comes landscaping, and that is an area where, if any one of the few people watching this have any tips on landscaping, I would very much appreciate them, because the landscape would also need to be somewhat cat-proof. Even though there will be doors, I would be very surprised if the cats never get in. So the landscape needs to be cat-proof. It can't be something that's made out of paper foil suspended on little wooden sticks. Like, those look great, like you have from North Shore, however you pronounce that. They look great, but the cats would destroy them. So, what's good stuff to use? Styrofoam, or is there something else? And also it needs to be something that I can work with at home. I don't have a workshop for sewing things or anything like that. So yeah, tips would be appreciated. I'm currently leaning towards a combination of styrofoam and cardboard, but we'll see how it ends up. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and yes, I will see you in the next video of this series, where we will probably actually get started with landscaping and building the layout, and likely before that I will also showcase some of the stuff that I bought this year for rolling stock. But for now, it is a goodbye from me.